Hey guys, so we are in Potrero Chico, the party capital of Mexican rock climbing, and I wanted to take advantage of this anchor right here to show you guys a quick system for if you're in a top managed site, or if it's more common for people to come in from the top, lower down into the climb, and then belay the climber up in a top belay fashion from the ground. You find this in common places like Ouray Ice Park. It's very common to use those sort of systems, or in Joshua Tree, just to name a few. First thing I want to do is make sure that I'm secured, since there's a big edge right here and I could easily fall off. And so you can do this with a number of ways. You can use a personal anchor, or, well, actually there's only two ways. The personal anchor, and then you could also use your rope. In this case, I'm going to use my rope because it allows me a lot more room to move around on the ledge. And so I'll just hook myself in with a clove hitch. I'll give myself a little bit of space since I got some good footing, so I don't need to be sitting on the anchor, but certainly if the edge was right there, I could sit on the anchor if I need to. I have myself clipped into the top shelf of my quad, and then on the bottom shelf, I have my ATC, or any belay plate you want, with a locking carabiner, and then another locking carabiner right next to it. It really helps. Well, really what you want is this locker should be either the same size as this locker or smaller. Some people recommend having a smaller locker here, but in my personal opinion, I like having two of the exact same locker. I just feel like it feeds smoother. But overall, like, same size or smaller is fine. Now what I'm going to do is I have my rope to my climber right here, and I'm going to load that into my belay plate, following the pictures, making sure the climber's side is on the climber's picture, and then I have the extra teeth brake side. I'm going to put that up through the carabiner. So right here now, I effectively have a top rope anchor. There's no friction in this system. If I were to just hold onto these strands and lower my climber down, the minute they sit down on the rope is just going to whiz through my hands and they're going to hit the ground. So what I want to do is redirect the brake strand, so that way I maintain the braking plane of the device. There's a lot of big words in that, but essentially what that means is when the climber sits down on the ATC, you can see how the brake strand is curved up, so that way I can still have some friction in there, enough to add braking to the system, and I can control the lowering of my climber. And I do want that on a locking carabiner, so I will lock that. So now you can see I can even check by pulling on this rope, and I can see how the climber is going to stop on the ATC. Another good check, sometimes people will flip these around, so you want to make sure that the ATC is on the climber's side of the rope, not the brake side of the rope. It's really easy to flip those two around. I'm going to pull some rope in, just that way it's tight on my climber. Now before I lower the climber down into the climb or whatever, this system, if I were to let go, the climber's just going to whiz to the ground again. So you want some sort of backup in the system. And a common way of backing up, the recommended way, is to have another locker with your third hand clipped onto your belay loop. And what I'm going to do is just do my usual auto block or French press it. With single strands, I usually do about 4. And then I'll test to make sure that actually holds. Lock that carabiner. You do want a locking carabiner. And now I'll just pull in that extra slack, make sure it's tight on my climber, pull it through my third hand. I can pull that up a little bit. And now I can tell my climber to lean back in the rope, and you'll see how this thing sort of pops a little bit. It'll get into place. There we go. So yeah, a bit of separation in the carabiners right there, and now I'm free to lower my climber. There is a lot of friction in this system too, so a lot of times if it's like flat ground, going over the edge of the cliff, the climber will have to push a bit on the flat ground in order to make the rope actually go through, and then once their full weight is on the rope, it'll slide pretty smoothly. Okay, so now let's say my climber made it to the bottom of the climb and they want to come back up. One, I don't want to belay them up using this method. This is more strictly for lowering, and so what I can do is grab yet another locking carabiner, and I can clip the eye of my ATC. And what I'm going to do is just bring this ATC up to a higher point on my anchor. If you have a master point with a shelf, it's great to clip it into the shelf. Here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip it up into my higher reinforced leg right here. So climber's starting to climb. Here they go, they stand up. Get a bit of space there. And then I'm going to clip into that higher point and then lock my carabiner down. And now I can belay my climber like normal. Notice how I don't have to unclip anything, especially not this carabiner, since that's very critical. You could unclip this if you wanted to, but you really don't have to. You can just keep on pulling rope up as the climber comes up, and then if they were to fall, it'll auto lock just like normal. Or not auto lock anymore, but it will hold the rope for you.